son, but more so because he was very much like the Holy Prophet. His looks, his words, his practices, his whole life was very similar to the life of the Holy Prophet. Whenever the Imam and the household members of the Holy Prophet wanted to remember the Prophet, they would look at this child, this young man called Ali Akbar, who was very handsome. When he was killed in the plains of Karbala, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, according to the narrators of Maqtal, Al-Maqnaf was a Sunni writer. And look at the different maqatil that you will find from the Sunni brothers who have written Maqtal. Maqtal, it is the name given to the books that are talking about the Karbala. It literally means the place of murder, where someone is killed. And these words are called Maqtal. All of these books are called Maqtal of Karbala, Maqtal of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. All of these are called Maqtal of Imam Hussain. You'll find many Sunnis writing. Ali Akbar was a young man. He is killed in front of his father. The Holy Prophet says the biggest trial for a man is when he sees his own son die in front of him. His own child die in front of him. When the hadith says, the Imam was asked, what is the best thing in life? He says, when you have a young child who you nurture and grows in front of your eyes, becomes big and stays in front of your eyes, and is very beloved to you, and he also loves you. That is the most enjoying thing in this life, when your children become young in front of you. Then he was asked, what is the most troubling thing? What is the most tragic thing? He said, when the same young person dies in front of your own eyes. When that young person is lost, that is the biggest trial. Brothers, Imam Hussain gave the trial of losing that young man. How did he die? When he was hit by Hasan ibn Umayr, he was hit with a javelin in his chest. As soon as this entered his chest, he could not hold. That's how hard it had hit him in his liver, and he dropped on the. He could not hold on. When it dropped, the host entered the army of the enemy, and he said to his father, Father, everyone in the plains of Karbala, whenever they called Imam Hussain, they said, come and help us, we are dying, except for Ali Akbar, his son. Because he knew my father cannot come to my body. It is difficult for a father to lift the body of a young man, of his own young son. So he said, Father, I see, becoming shaheed, I see my grandfather the Prophet, and I see my grandfather Ali. They have come to rescue me. Do not come to my body. Father, they are offering me water from the heaven. Father, do not think I'm thirsty anymore. Stay where you are. But the history mentions Hussain alayhi salam did not stop. He went forward in the day of Ashura. He went forward. And he called for Ali Akbar. He said, Ali Akbar, call me because I want to see you before you leave this world. Why did Imam Hussain alayhi salam? In Surah Fajr, in the last verses it says, O soul which is certain, which has contentment, complete contentment, he has no doubt. That is Imam Hussain alayhi salam. He wants you to say, oh Allah, even that young man, even Abraham, when he came to his son, he had to tie his eyes to see his son die in front of him. He could not see slaughtering his son. He tied his eyes. But oh Allah, I will come and see my son Ali Akbar without tying my eyes. He came forward. But later on in the day, when his youngest son, the 6-month-old Ali Asghar, had been shot, again you will find it in the history books of both the Shia and the Sunni. Why did Imam Hussain take a child? For Islam Hujjah. He wanted the world to know that I made sure that I took every proof for these enemies to say that you can deliver water to us. Not to me, you can give it to this child. I cannot explain how Karbala had killed Ali Asghar. But I can only mention one part. When after Karbala, there were people asking about how the children had been killed. If only elder people were killed, we would say probably oppression had not reached its peak. But young children, as old as 6 months, there are many people who see young children in the house. There are many of you who have their own children, who have younger brothers and sisters. I beg you to think, a man who brings his own child in front of the whole army. And then asked later by other people from Kufa, why did you kill the children? They said, we did not wish to. But that was a proof for Hussein. And our army would have switched, so we had to kill him. When they killed him, Mukhtar says, was there any time that the army of Yazid ever felt sorry for Imam Hussein alayhi salam? They said, once, only once. When he had that young child in his arms, and he was holding him in his arms, in his hands, on his clothes of that young child. He held him up and was walking back towards the tents to bring him back to his mother. He took 7 steps forward and 7 steps back, and he kept repeating, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, ridan bi qada'ihi wa tasliman li amrih. We are from Allah and to Him we return. Oh Allah, I am pleased with what you have for me. I will never complain. But oh Allah, this is the only place where Imam Hussein Islam cried loudly. Some people have mentioned 6 different places where Imam Hussein also cried in the plains of Karbala. One of them is this place. He cries loudly and says, oh Allah, it breaks my heart to see my young son die in front of me. But it gives me patience when I think it is all happening before your eyes. It is happening before you. That is the only incident he remembers, his Shias, his followers, and anyone who weeps over the people who die in Karbala. He says, oh, all the ones who cry upon me, remember, I wish when you cry, I wish you had seen me how I took my young child in my arms. And I took him to the army, but no one had any mercy on me. I wish you saw the way I was asking for water and the way my young child was crying. You would remember how oppressed I am. Whenever you drink water, remember my thirst. I would have finished here, but this is not the end of Imam Hussein Salam's oppression. This is not what had happened to Imam Hussein. In an event where he has lost everything, he stands up and says, oh Allah, I remember my promise that I had made to my grandfather to save Islam. And how has he saved Islam? If those people today had conquered over Imam Hussein Islam, conquering does not mean to finish off and kill everyone. Conquering means that if their message had lived, Imam Hussein gave blood and made sure that his message lives, and his message is the message of his grandfather. That is what he's making sure. He comes and fights. When he fights, it is difficult to explain how he's fighting after seeing his sons and his brothers, his friends die in front of his eyes. I'm not sure how to explain this. But when he was dropping from the back of his horse, the people have mentioned that his sister, one of his sisters called Zainab, Salamullahi alayha, came out of the tent and called to the people, oh people, this is the grandson of the Holy Prophet. My grandfather used to lift him on his arms and on his shoulders. Do not kill him. And then she addressed Umar Asad. She said, Umar Asad, why did she address him and not other people? Because he was the most learned scholar in that army. He knew the Imam the best. She said, Umar Asad, you are watching and my brother is being killed. Tell this shimmer to come off the chest of my brother. This is Imam Hussein Islam on the floor. I'm not going to explain how severely he was killed, how many arrows he had in his chest, and how harshly he was struck by the armors in his head. I'm not going to explain how the swords had struck him, but when he dropped on the floor, he had been hit in his neck, and he had been hit from the sides by many different people. When he was dropping, his sister was screaming and saying, oh Umar Asad, save my brother. This is the only blood and the only grandson of the Holy Prophet that lives. But no one had mercy on Imam Hussein alayhi salam. In fact, there were people who were saying, hurry, it is the time for prayer of Asr. Kill him so we can do the prayer at the time of its fadila. That prayer will not be accepted when you are shedding the blood of the grandson of the Holy Prophet. Who taught you the prayer? The Prophet.